Hello, everyone. I just want to say I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to share the story of our project. My name is Jesus Charles, and I had the immense privilege of being the Descent Flight Director for Blue Ghost Mission 1. And today, here, I want to share that story. So please don't forget to send your questions for the Q&A at the end. All right, so first of all, what is Firefly Aerospace? Firefly Aerospace is a space services provider. We focus on providing safe, reliable, and economical access to space. We do that via our three core products, which are our Alpha and MOV launch vehicles. We have our Blue Ghost lander, which I'm here to talk about today, and we have our orbital vehicle, Elytra. So we landed on the moon. That was on March 2nd of this year. But behind that achievement, there's a story of the people, the processes, and the effort it took to get there. So let's dig in. So picture this. You're in the control room. You're in front of your monitors. The clock is ticking, and the lander is hurtling down towards the moon. We only have less than 30 minutes to make the call to continue or abort our descent sequence. There's no time for second guessing. You got to make the right call. Your only window into this complex machine is a set of dashboards. There's no time to make the wrong call. So we have to make informed decisions via our data. This video is the moment where our team decided to go for landing.
Thermal state is 11. We will be starting PDI at 97% state of charge.
All consoles, flight on ops, PDI cannot be aborted if the lander has transitioned to descent critical. Also at this point, we're going to proceed with our power descent initiation, go, no, go, pull, starting with payload.
Go.
Com.
Go.
Ground software.
Go.
Flight software.
Flight software is go.
AVI.
AVI is go.
VNS.
VNS is go.
GNC.
Go.
FIDO.
Go.
Prop.
Go.
TCS.
Go.
Systems.
Go.
C.
Go.
FC.
Go.
All consoles, Blue Ghost lander is a go for power descent initiation.
And y'all heard of
Count on
Charles?
ops, 3 minutes remaining until power descent initiation.
We are go for the power descent initiation.
So as you can see, thank you. As you can see, this was an intense moment. It was fast, and it was very critical that we made the right decision. Being there in that console, that's a flight director console, you're basically the orchestra director for the mission operations team. You're in charge of making sure that the procedure and the process is followed so that we can meet our mission goals. But being in the flight director seat, that's a long way from where I started. Like many of you, I didn't grow up in the US. I grew up in Mexico. It wasn't until I was 16 years old where I came over to go to high school and start a new chapter of my life. So being exposed while growing up to the Mexican and American cultures taught me really to be adaptable and to leverage the power of diversity. I really wanted to show that I could work hard and I could make an effort. And really, growing up, because I was removed from just access to space, it wasn't really a dream that I had since I was little. It was something that I developed. Like, I always heard that I needed to work hard, so I set goals for myself, and I started just moving forward to meet them. So then, growing up, I liked math, science, working with my hands, so I decided to go for a career in engineering. I went for a degree in aerospace engineering to the University of Texas at Austin. My first chance of getting to work with spacecraft was while I was a student. I used to work on CubeSats. Those are those small satellites that you can see up on the big screen. And then after that, I got to start my career as a payload integration engineer at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, where I worked on a few different projects. Here in the second picture on the bottom, you can see STP-H5. That's a complement of experiments that is still flying on the ISS up to this day. So there was a moment in my career when I saw my name like fly to space, and that was a big milestone. That was something that felt like, okay, I think I made it, right? But I always had that feeling, I need to keep moving forward. I need to keep pushing, right? And make even bigger dreams. So one time I said, what if I could fly payloads, but instead of the ISS, to the moon? And then that's where Firefly Aerospace is going to enter the story. So Firefly Aerospace is a new space company that was founded in 2017. In the beginning, I had my eye on them. I was tracking them. As I went to the university in Austin, I wanted to come back and work in Austin, right? But there were no space companies. So once that Firefly was there, I was tracking them. I knew that they were one of the NASA providers able to compete for lunar missions. And the goal for those lunar missions is to fly payloads to space. So it was a perfect match. So I joined in early 2020, and I started working on the first set of payloads that we flew on our Alpha rocket. And then we also worked on the proposals for making those missions a reality with NASA. Here you can see a very early concept of our lunar lander that we had back then. And basically worked the proposals, and after a year, we were selected by NASA and we received a call from them making Blue Ghost lander a reality. And also here you can see a picture of our team. This is one of our early program reviews where we had the whole team present to NASA our design and show that we knew how to get the project going. You can see there's a few people here, but basically when I joined in early 2020, the team was about only 5 people, but we were all driven to make history. All right, so looking again at the challenges and driving forward, I wanted to keep growing as an engineer. So after a while, I took a leap and I joined the mission operations team. I left my comfort zone of knowing payload management to help stand up a new capability for the company in mission operations. So the job was to make sure that we prepare the people, the process, and the system to make sure that we could execute our lunar mission. And in the beginning, I didn't have all the answers, but I had the determination, I had the drive, and I had the process experience along with a team that was eager to learn and build. We even had the chance to visit other organizations. We visited the ISS and the ESA Operations Center in Germany, and we got to see how they structure their operations centers and how they approach these types of missions so that we could learn from them and validate our approach. As we started working on this project, as we started setting up the systems, we started taking our first steps into using Grafana. We basically started using Grafana to build the dashboards that we have for our video wall. And what is our video wall? So the video wall is basically a TV grid that is in front of the room, and in the operations center, it is meant to give situational awareness to all the operators sitting there. It is intended to show the critical and clear information so that we can take all the decisions during the mission, right? It is meant to collaborate and help us achieve all of our goals. So this is when we started choosing what system we wanted to use, right? And we chose Grafana as our data display system because it was already used to track other metrics in the company. So we were able to leverage that experience and start applying it towards mission operations. So once that the system and the process was created, we had to focus on the people. So we had a pretty extensive preparation campaign for all of our operators. We had 16 mission simulations. We had more than 500 hours of training, and we had even a full week of 24-hour support. We really wanted to make sure that our team knew all the mission and all the decisions that needed to be made like the back of their hand. In the beginning, when we came together, it was a room full of experts, right? There's a console for every part of the land or every system, and each of the person sitting there is an expert. But we were somewhat like the blind and the elephant. We were all looking at our system, but we weren't seeing the full picture. So after this intense training campaign and a lot of hard work, we were able to come together as a team and work as one. We had the privilege and the honor of hearing from one of the Apollo flight directors, Jerry Griffin. So he came over and provided us with a chat of how he experienced Apollo, what he thinks we needed to do, and he really emphasized that teamwork was the key element that we needed to rely on to make this mission a reality. Okay, so as we are starting to prepare, as we're starting to get ready, we have our Grafana different deployments, right? So we had deployments that helped us organize the development and the production of our dashboards, deployments that gave us critical redundancy in the systems so that we could make all the decisions that we needed, and we could face any of the anomalies. Imagine if we had this infrastructure that is just maybe single-threaded, and one of the elements fails, we would be able to not have the data that we needed. And if that compounds with an anomaly, that will be a recipe for disaster. So there was a lot of detail that was put into our architecture. We also had a lot of dashboard that created by the team. So like you can imagine, there are 20 consoles in the room, and a lot of these systems are very complex. So you can imagine there's a lot of dashboards that got created so people could know more about their system. We even had an instance of Grafana deployed in AWS so that we can make it easy for our customer to get access to their data without having to go through a lot of complicated setups. By this time in the story, we are mission ready. Our systems, our people, and processes are all in place. The picture you see on the left is our mission operations team in the mission control room, and we're all sitting there, we're waiting. You can kind of see the TVs. We're watching the live stream for the launch. Our mission launched in a Falcon 9 from SpaceX. So we're all sitting there in anticipation of the moment when our spacecraft is going to separate from the rocket, and all of our dashboards are going to get data, right? You can see that it says no data. We're waiting for that moment. And then on the second picture, you can see a very busy operations control room. This is the picture during our first shift handover. Well, we had like the night shift come in, the night shift go out and the green shift come back in to keep the operations going. You can see the operators are really busy. They're exchanging notes. They're talking about the data that they were able to visualize. And you can see now our dashboards are all beautifully lit up with data, and we can get a sense of what's happening with our spacecraft. So our mission to the moon had a 45-day transit. 25 of those days were in Earth orbit, and the 4 days that it took us to get to the moon, and then we had 16 days around in lunar orbit. All through the transit, we executed multiple maneuvers, and we used our dashboards to inform us of everything that was happening and allowed us to make critical decisions. As you can see, we also had the chance to collect a lot of images and beautiful video from our onboard cameras. It's really like a night and day difference being able to watch these images in the quality that we were able to collect. So it's funny that every time I will go in the control room for my shift, I will look through the last shift's images that they downlinked, and I'll pick a favorite. And it's like, this is amazing, this is mind-blowing. And then I came up the next day, and it's a whole new set of pictures and another favorite. So these are a few of my favorites. My, I think, top favorite is this. As we're going around the moon, you can really see and start getting a feel for like the excitement and everything that's going to happen on descent day, right? So you can see here we're about 100 kilometers over the surface of the moon, while our systems are doing a lot of checks. We're doing a lot of preparation to get ready for the landing. So then finally the day came, the day where we had to do our descent into the Sea of Crisis. But spoiler alert, there were no crises. That's just the name of our landing site, Mare Crisium. So on descent day, we had a full house. We had our main control room, had about 40 engineers. Like I told you, there were 20 consoles, and almost all of them were double staffed. So we had about 40 engineers just in that single room, and then we had a lot of other engineers in supporting control rooms, along with our NASA customer also on site. During the night, because this happened in the night shift, so during the night, our team was feeling a mix of emotions. As you can imagine, these are years and years of work that are basically funneling into this single critical event. So we wanted to make sure that we were ready. So during a few of the breaks you can see in the picture on the left, we had a few breaks while our spacecraft was going behind the moon. We were blocked from communications. So that gave us a little bit of a chance to stand up, stretch our legs, and we just kept reassuring ourselves, hey, this is just like another mission simulation, right? We have our eyes on the data, we have our dashboards, and we have the process, and we're prepared to execute. And then the picture on the right is after the go-no-go video that you saw earlier. We're all locked in. Everyone knows that for the next 30 to 40 minutes, we're going to have to be laser focused, and we're gonna have to pay attention to our dashboards. The whole descent for the lander to go into the lunar surface is automated, so the only way that we can experience this descent is through our dashboards and seeing the data on the screen. And then we get to the descent. So on March 2nd, it was like about 2 a.m., we landed on the surface of the moon. Here's a compilation of a lot of the cameras and camera angles that we're recording as we made our descent. But please remember that these videos we got after the fact. During our landing, again, all that we could see were our dashboards and the data in front of us. So these are a few of the different camera angles as we're coming down. That day, I was on the night shift, so I started, my official shift was at 7 p.m., and it wouldn't end until 7 a.m. So while we were looking at the touchdown clock just come down and tick down and get closer to 0, it was very exciting. I remember feeling nervous, I remember feeling excited, but I knew I needed to just stay calm and make sure that the room was calm and collected. Like I mentioned, the job of the flight director is kind of to be like the orchestra, and I needed to make sure that the team will play this music to get us to the surface, basically. And then afterwards, I prepared a speech, and I wanted to make sure that I celebrated the moment when we touched down, because I had full confidence that we were going to be able to execute that. So here in the next chart, this is my speech that I shared after the touchdown.
Blue Ghost Riders,
footage.
Path to the stars is no longer limited to nations alone. Firefly is building the road to the next frontier, one mission and one dream at a time. Tonight, we didn't just reach another mission milestone. Together, we created a moment in history.
Khan, Chief Engineer on Ops. Y'all select the landing. We're on the moon.
Still gives me chills just to watch that footage and thinking again of that moment. So this was a very critical moment that was important because it marks the first time that we had a fully successful lunar landing by a commercial company. Also during our mission, we had the goal of sharing this experience with the world. We didn't just want that to be limited to the people that were in the control room. So our marketing team put together a Meet the Team video series, and they put together our launch and landing live streams, so they're made public so that we have a chance to reach out to the public and make sure that we get an opportunity to inspire, right? To show the people that if you work hard, if you follow your dreams, you can also be part of something great. Again, during our preparation, we were looking at making sure that we were ready for any anomaly. Like I mentioned before, we had created a lot of dashboards, we had done a lot of training. So I wanted to show you next what it would look like to be in that control room. What was the data available for us to know that everything was going nominally? This is just one of the many, many dashboards that we used during that descent. As part of the process, we knew we needed to track information, such as you can see on the left pane is the altitude and range distance to our landing site. So as we're coming down, we would be able to see that narrowed down. But also, after seeing a lot of the other attempts at lunar landings, we wanted to make sure that we had a very clear proof and clear data showing that we had landed successfully on the lunar surface. So the panel in the middle that is showing the actual acceleration along the vertical axis of our lander. So this is a device that measures the acceleration, right? So after we made a successful lunar landing, it would need to match the acceleration of the lunar gravity exactly in that axis, showing that we were upright and we were not like in a different orientation. And then the panel right next to it, it tracks the sensors that we had on our footpads. We had 4 footpads on our lander, and each of them had a sensor. So we had this panel that would trigger whenever those footpads will align with the lunar surface. So that's when you saw our chief engineer in the video say that we were on the surface of the moon. Those were part of the verifications. We had a lot of engineers check their data, relay to the chief engineer, and he was the technical authority able to say, hey, we have confidently landed on the moon upright and we're stable. So this is just one of the dashboards that were used for that. Okay, so then after landing on the moon, right, that was not the end of the trip. We went to the moon because we needed to get science done. So we had a full plate of payload operations we needed to execute. So you saw the celebration from the team, you saw the other little video of the flight director, flight controller, and mission director celebrating as well, but that only lasted a few minutes. We know we needed to keep our mission going, so after that we all sat back down and started hitting our payload operations. During this mission, we flew 10 NASA payloads. These came from different universities, NASA centers, and companies that were selected for this particular landing site and the relevance it had for their science. So up on the screen, I can show you a few of the videos of the payloads that were operated during this mission. First up, this is Lister, which is the lunar drill. So this drill went down up to like 3 feet into the lunar surface, or I think it's 3 meters, sorry. The next one is Scalps, which is a set of cameras that were recording our entire descent. The goal here was for their system to see the interaction between the plumes generated by the engines and the lunar regolith. And then the third image is showing a before and after of the EDS experiment. This is a technology that would help clear dust from surfaces on the lander. And then we have our LPV and our LMS experiments. LMS is an experiment that deployed probes on the surface of the moon. So we can basically say we shot the moon, and then we also had a mast that deployed, and these instruments were going to measure magnetic fields on the surface. And then we had our lunar planet bag, which is self-explanatory, but then it's weird to think, how is it vacuuming in the moon, right? So it's not doing that. So if you want to have a conversation about a lot of the details for the payloads, you can find me at the Ask the Experts booth after the presentation. So also during this mission, we got a unique chance to capture a solar eclipse on the lunar surface. That is something that has never been done before. So we had the opportunity, because we were operating on the lunar surface, we had a lot of cameras, so we had the benefit of being there at the right time. You can see in the video as the Earth is moving in front of the sun and it's blocking it. And just as you can see this type of event from Earth, you kind of see the red start turning like a little bit red. So we actually see that that is true. We see a red tint on the surface of the moon as well as the sun is being blocked. Our mission on the surface of the moon was 14 days long, a little bit more than 14 days. And during that time, we were able to hit 100% of our science goals plus some bonus operations. We were also able to learn and gather a lot of lessons learned. One example is that the current thermal models for the lunar surface do not cover you whenever you land next to a crater. We found that. And we also found some lessons learned on the ground that we needed to have different and detailed approaches for looking at data real time versus doing a data analysis long term for all the data we collected on the surface. And we plan to implement these lessons learned on our upcoming missions. We have Blue Ghost Mission 2 and Blue Ghost Mission 3. And then I just wanted to say that having the chance to be the flight director, specifically also the descent flight director, was an opportunity of a lifetime. I think Blue Ghost Mission 1 is a true example of how you can chase your dreams, you can keep working hard, and if you persevere, then you can achieve great things. And I just want to say to all the people here using the great tools that Grafana makes available, keep on building, keep on dreaming, and then sometimes maybe this might help you land on the moon. Thank you very much.